Ready? Okay, here we go. All right, this is the echinoderm dissection, the sea star dissection, and I'm here in CNS 127 with Dr. Goff. He's the videographer, okay? And I'm going to walk through, right, the dissection of a sea star, which you would have done this coming week, right, had you been here. So let's just, I hope you have your lab books out. That's what I'd like you to do, and you should be on page 161 of your lab book. And I'm just going to step through this thing, right, with the sea star. You can see here it is on the dissection tray. And we're going to walk through, again, what you would have done, had you been doing the dissection yourself. So look, sea stars are part of this phylum Echinodermata, and they have a unique feature which is called a water vascular system. And if you're on page 161, you'll see that there is a little disc right here called the madreporite that's on this region called the central disc. These are the arms, and there's the central disc of the animal. That is a sieve-like plate that is an opening to the seawater that connects the rest of this water vascular system, of which there is a stone canal that we're going to find here soon. Then that stone canal directly connects to a ring canal, and then it's going to go to these radial canals that goes along in the arms of the animals, and then there are going to be some little lateral canals that actually connect all the way up to these lovely little things called tube feet right here. All right. You can see them all along these grooves, and they're called ambulacral grooves here, and we'll have more to say about that momentarily. But these things, these tube feet, can be extended by water pressure, by hydraulic pressure when they squeeze certain muscles. All right, so let's go through the anatomy again briefly. There's the madreporite, that's the sieve-like plate opening to the water vascular system. Then this region right here is called the central disc, and each one of these would be the arms of the sea star. This is the aboral side because this is the side without the mouth. If I flip it over, there's the mouth. All right? So this would be the oral side where the mouth is. So that's your basic anatomy on page 161. Now I'm flipping to the next page, and this is, again, we're still dealing with externals, and page 161 describes and talks about, you can see all these spines, okay, and they provide protection for these animals. Echinoderm means prickly skin because you can see that, right? I mean, they got all these little, prickles, the spine sticking out there. Now, what you can't see with the naked eye is in between these spines are two kinds of structures. One are going to be the pedicelaria, and if you're on page 162, you'll see them. They are pincher-like structures that will prevent any unwanted organism that lands on the back of a sea star. Now you think about this, a sea star does not move very fast. So a sponge or something like that, they might land on this thinking this is a rock, all right? Well, a sea star doesn't want to be dragging around a sponge on its back, and so these little pincher-like pedicelaria that, again, are too small to see with a naked eye, they would start pinching the bottom of the sponge, and the sponge might get the picture to kind of leave, or whatever other organism might land on the back of these things, okay? Now, there are hundreds of these pedicelaria, and again, look at the picture on page 162, and you'll see those little pincher-like things. Now, also, in this sort of the more velvety-like, portions in between the spines are a bunch of things called papillae. Those are also called skin gills. They are extensions of the coelom. Remember, the coelom is the body cavity, and that is the exchange surface across which the animal will get oxygen from the water and get rid of CO2. All right, so that's page 162. Now, if I flip it over, I'm on page 163, and we've mentioned there's the mouth. These are called the ambulacral grooves right here. This particular sea star has 5 arms. They don't have to have 5 arms. And you go, who comes up with this term ambulacral groove? All right. Well, you have actually encountered this term before, and that is when you think about like if somebody is taken to a hospital, they might ask the question, that would determine whether they need a wheelchair or not, and that is, if you're thinking about, is the patient ambulatory? Okay, so ambulatory means something to do with locomotion. A mobile hospital is called an ambulance. So there's that word ambula again. So an ambulacral groove is the location where the ambulatory, the locomotor structures are located, and those are the 2 feet that they can again extend with water pressure, and the animal can creep across a coral block or whatever the sand in this fashion with all those little 2 feet moving in a coordinated way to cause the animal to move either that way or however it wants to do it. Okay? Now, if you look at this whole animal, it's pretty well protected, right? Except for right here. This is the soft spot. Well, there are spines right along the edge of both sides of this ambulacral groove, and they can function like this, all right? So these are called ambulacral spines, and they can be like almost like a cross bridge where they're normally like this, where the 2 feet can extend, but if this animal wants to protect those 2 feet, those ambulacral spines can cross over like that and form, a protective network over top of those soft tube feet. So that covers page 163. 164, we're going to be looking along the base of the ambulacral groove to see that there's actually a radial nerve that extends from a ring nerve that goes around sort of the ring canal in the center here that you can't see, but it extends all along the length of each arm. So a couple of different ways of showing this, and we're going to see if we can bend this limb or this arm back a little bit. Okay, that's not working. So I'm opening up and I'm looking at the base of the ambulacral groove, and I hope you can see a little bit of a shiny cord there. That is the radial nerve, and that's going to extend all the way along the length of that ambulacral groove. It's excuse me, it's going to go all the way to the tip of that arm, and some species actually have little eye spots at the tip there. Now that again, you'd have to look at it under a microscope, but they would be like little red things. They don't see images, but they would be able to say, okay, it's light over here, it's dark over here, and so the radial nerve transmits that information to to this ring nerve that goes, again, you can't see it, but it's down in this region. And then that radial nerve that goes along the length of the arm that we showed you, that's going to coordinate all the different muscles that are in the tube foot, okay? Because there's an amazing amount of muscles. We'll talk about a few of those here. You can't see them with the naked eye, but we're going to be able to just kind of point them out a little bit when we do a cross-section, which is where we're heading to right now. Page 165. It says to take a cross-section of one of the arms, and we're going to be working away from where the madreporite is. So I'm just going to take a cross-section like this, and I'm actually going to do a little bit deeper. Whoop, there's some pyloric cechi sticking out there. So there are a few things that we want you to see with this cross-section, and one is that there are lots of little white hard things that are actually embedded in the dermis of this animal, and those are called dermal ossicles. Okay, I'm just sort of tapping on a few of them right here. And this animal actually has an endoskeleton. All right, it's not an exoskeleton like the arthropods, it's an endoskeleton. And these ossicles, these are bone-like structures, are embedded in the dermis of this animal. Now, hopefully you can see a little bit of this brown tissue right here. That's going to be the pyloric cechi, okay? And that's going to be part of the digestive system that we'll be seeing in more detail here later. Now, the top of the tube, here's the tube feet. That's the podium right there. I'm looking on page 165, and I see a nice image of the podium right there. And inside here, you can barely see it, but there are the ampullae, which are on top of the tube foot. They're all connected to each other. So I'm going to show you this image here real quick. This is what I want you to be looking at. We're seeing this, and inside the animal is the ampulla. This is all connected to the water vascular system. And when this animal contracts these ampulla muscles, it squeezes the water in the ampulla down into the tube foot, and it would extend that tube foot. Okay, so it like it extend it, and it could plant it into a new location. And then you can see it's got postural muscles here. It can swivel that tube foot in a particular direction. The levator muscle says once it plants the tube foot, the base of the tube foot, on a structure, it can contract the levator muscles, which is going to create like a little suction-like process at the base of the tube foot, and that's going to allow it, just like a suction cup would, it allows it then to hold on to that new surface. Now, when it wants to actually pull itself toward that new location, it's going to contract the retractor muscles, and those are going to shorten the tube foot, force the water back into the ampulla, and then it can release its hold onto that location, and then re-extend that tube foot a second time by once again hitting the ampulla muscles. Now, I didn't mention this, and that is there is a one-way valve that connects this ampulla, this whole tube foot, to the radial canal. And when the ampulla muscles are contracted and squeezing the water down into the podium here, the tube foot, the water doesn't go back into a lateral canal because you've got one-way valves that are functioning like this. This is a one-way valve in the lateral canal. When the ampulla contracts, the water goes all the way down into the podium, and the one-way valves in the lateral canal are going to do this once there's a little bit of buildup of water pressure when the ampulla muscles contract, and they're not going to allow the water to go into the lateral canal. Going to force it all the way to go down into the podium. All right, so we're moving on to the next page, right? I'm looking at that. It's page 166, and this is where it says, all right, let's take one of these these arms, and we're going to I'm going to snip this one, and we're going to go along. We're going to separate sort of the aboral from the oral side. All right, so let's see if I can do that. Get in here a little bit. All right, this is a pretty tough critter right here. So I'm just going to remove this top layer, like so. Okay. So I'm going to be lifting up the aboral side, okay, and I'm just sort of pulling down all this brown stuff. We saw it in a cross section. Now we're seeing, oh boy, this is really pretty big. Okay, so all of this that you're seeing right now, these are the pyloric ceci, and remember, a cecum is always a blind sac. So whatever foodstuffs go in here, then it's going to come out the same way. So there is a little tube right here. This is the pyloric duct. That's going to connect up to the pyloric stomach up here that I haven't exposed yet. But there are lots and lots of little side chambers here. And that's where food stuff can go in here, get digested, get enzymatically broken down, and then get absorbed across the wall here. And then once it's absorbed across the wall, it's going to be floating around in the coelom, right? This whole space here is coelom that the pyloric ceci are in, okay? Now, if I'm going to actually expose this area a little bit more so you can see that the pyloric duct connects up to a portion of the stomach. So let me remove a little bit more of the tissue here. Now I'm going into the central disc. I am intentionally avoiding the madreporite because the madreporite is where the stone canal is connected, and we want to see that. All right, so I'm kind of moving around here a little bit. See if we can. I want to remove a little bit more of the tissue up top here in the central disc. I wish you all could be doing this. This is a really cool creature. We like these guys. All right, so look, this is the pyloric portion of the stomach, and it connects directly with this pyloric duct right here. There's going to be, look, this is one pyloric cechi right over here. It breaks apart really easily. Here's the other one. All right, it's on both sides, if you will, of the arm, and this is all one piece. There's a duct that goes all the way from the pyloric stomach all the way into the ductwork here. Now I'm going to flip this thing over for a sec, and you see a little bit of stomach sticking out here. This is the cardiac stomach, and sea stars have this unique ability to actually evert their stomach, turn it inside out, and they can slide it into like a bivalve that they've cracked open just a little bit, where they're going to release digestive enzymes and start digesting that bivalve even while it's still alive until it becomes mush, and then take that mush inside of it. Goes first into the cardiac stomach, then it goes into the pyloric portion of the stomach, and then that's all distributed throughout the pyloric ceca. That's where digestion occurs, and then that's where absorption also occurs. Now, I'm going to remove this, the pyloric ceca right here from the arms, okay? So I'm just removing it because we want to see something that's up underneath there. A couple of things, actually. And I hope you can see we have something that does not look like the pyloric ceca. It's a different color, okay? And these are actually the gonads of the animal. There's a little bit of pyloric ceca still stuck on it, but these are the gonads of the animal, okay? Sometimes they're really teeny depending upon the reproductive state of the animal, and I can't tell male from female. You'd have to crush the gonads and see if you got sperm or eggs in those gonads to be able to distinguish male from female. Now, maybe you can see this a little bit, but what I'm moving my blunt probe along, let's see here, taking a look here to see exactly what we have. Yeah, it looks like I have removed the tops of the 2 feet is what it looks like to me. Hard to see sometimes with this magnification, but all the ampullae, I think that's gonad actually. All the ampullae are very tiny, and they're all along here and here. Yeah, they're just very, very tiny. I can barely see them with my, just looking at them, staring at them right here, but they'd be right along here. This is the ambulacral ridge, okay? And again, ampullae are the internal structure, and they're connected, remember, to the podium portion of the tube foot. Now, we're going to very carefully see if we can find what are called gastric ligaments. Now, I got to flip to that. So we looked at the pyloric ceca, that's page 166. And we looked at the pyloric duct, that's on page 167. And then the gonads is on page 168. And so now we're actually going after, and I'm going to grab my forceps over here. I'm on page 169. And this cardiac stomach that I mentioned right here is actually connected via ligaments to the ambulacral ridge here, so that the stomach does not get everted too far. It can only go right to a certain degree before those gastric ligaments will stop its eversion. And so we're going to carefully remove these gonads, and the way you see these ligaments, and they're tiny little bands. I can see one right there, and I'm going to pull up on the stomach a little bit, and can you see right there is a ligament? It is a very small structure, very thin structure. There should be another one on the other side. Oh yeah, I just moved a little bit right there. So I'm pulling up, and I hope you can see there's one there, there's one there. All right, so I'm pulling up, and there are the two gastric ligaments. All right, and there, that's nice. All right, I hope you can see that. So these are ligaments attaching the pyloric or the cardiac stomach to the ambulacral ridge right here, and that would be the case in all 5 of the limbs here, and it prevents the stomach from being everted too far out of the mouth as it tries to digest things. Okay, so that we just covered what we needed to for page 169. Now we're after the stone canal. Now remember, the stone canal is the canal that connects the madreporite to the ring canal. And the ring canal we're not going to be able to see because it's embedded in a bunch of ossicles. But what I need to do is I need to remove a little more tissue right here to get up, more the skin basically, to get up closer to the madreporite to see if I can find a little white canal. Okay, and to do that, again, I'm going to remove a little more of this, of the central disc tissue right here. And then we're going to have to remove the stomach, right? So that which we sort of very carefully kept intact in order to show you the gastric ligaments, we're now going to be pulling that out, okay? Because what we're looking for now is a little white tube, and so I'm gonna again yank out this stomach. And again, I'm looking close to where the madreporite is. I'm going to trim a little bit more over here. Want that? Whoop. Okay. And as I've always told you, blunt probe, safe instrument, right? So I don't want to damage the white stone canal. I want to find it. Sometimes this takes a little bit here, a little more. See if I can get that off. I probably should have grabbed some of the fine tip forceps. I can see a white tube in there, so I'm feeling. Yeah. Let me look a little bit more here. So we've removed enough of the stomach that we can now see, hopefully you can see a little white tube right there, okay? That's connecting the madreporite, which again is a sieve-like plate. Seawater can enter through that sieve-like plate. It's a sieve because it's filtering out any debris, because the animal doesn't want any kind of debris inside the water vascular system. And then that little white tube right there disappears right down in there, and that would be where the ring canal is, and that's embedded in a bunch of ossicles, right, that I'm running the blunt probe around. You can't see it, it's protected. And then that ring canal branches out, right? There is a radial canal that goes along the length of the arm. It's underneath here, okay? It's protected by these ossicles, and you can it would be like right in there. And then it has that radial canal has a bunch of lateral canals that connect up to each one of the different tube feet. Okay, so I'm trying to see if I can make this a little bit more visible. So there it is, right? That's the stone canal right there. I'm kind of wiggling it back and forth a little bit, but it's a white looking canal. All right, that ends the C-star dissection. Okay, that was actually, it's a fairly short one, and hopefully it gives you a little bit of a sense as to what you would have done here. And so, blessings to you, right? We're going to sign off, Dr. Goff and Dr. Reichenbach, okay? You saw his finger. All right, bye-bye.